You've got a promising candidate. The resume looks solid, the interview went well, and you even ran a personality assessment to make sure they're the right fit. You're feeling confident. But here's the hard truth. You're only looking at half the equation. If you're assessing the candidate, but you haven't assessed the manager they'll be reporting to, you're essentially buying a puzzle piece without looking at the rest of the puzzle. You have data on the new hire, sure, but you have zero data on whether they will actually survive working with you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is, and wherever you happen to be right now. I'm Mike Voories, here to help you build a stronger team. Today, we're talking about a massive blind spot in how most companies use tools like DISC or other personality assessments. And we see this all the time. A company treats an assessment like a background check. They use it to screen a candidate. They want to know, is this person a driver or a supporter? They want to know if they have the attention to detail or if they're a big picture thinker. That is valuable information, and I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. But if that's all you're doing, you're wasting about 80% of the tool's potential. And worse, you might still make a bad hire because you failed to ask the most important question. How will this specific human interact with the specific humans already on my team? Let's break down why assessing the candidate isn't enough and why you need to be looking at your leaders and your entire team if you actually want this to work. You know, this is a one-sided trap. When we use assessments purely as hiring filters, we tend to look for red flags in the candidate. We ask, is this person too aggressive? Or is this person too passive? But personality traits don't exist in a vacuum. They exist in relationships. A trait that looks like a red flag in one context might be a superpower in another. For example, let's say you're hiring a project manager. You assess them and they come back as a high D on the DISC profile. Decisive, results-oriented, maybe even a little blunt. If you put that person on a team that is paralyzed by indecision and needs a kick in the pants to hit deadlines, they're probably going to look like a hero. But if you put that same person under a manager who's also a high D, someone who needs to be in control and hates being challenged, you're going to have World War III by the second week. The candidate didn't change, the context changed. If you're only assessing the candidate, you wouldn't see that coming. You would just hire them, watch the explosion, and then blame the candidate for having an attitude problem. But it wasn't an attitude problem. It was a friction problem, and you could have predicted it had you looked at both sides of the relationship. You have to assess the leader. This is where the rubber meets the road. If you're a manager or a business owner, you cannot effectively hire for fit if you don't understand your own leadership style first. I know. We all think we're easy to work with. We all think we're flexible. We communicate well and we're reasonable. But the data usually tells a different story. If you're a manager who's highly analytical, someone who values precision, data, and getting things exactly right, probably a C style in DISC, you might struggle to manage a salesperson who's high energy, fast moving, and plays it loose with details, an I style. Without self-awareness, you're going to view that salesperson as sloppy and undisciplined, and they're going to view you as a micromanager who slows everything down. However, if you know your profile and you know their profile, the conversation changes completely. Instead of getting frustrated, you can adapt. You might say, I know you want to move fast, but I need these 3 specific details before you send that proposal. Can you get those to me? You aren't trying to change their personality. You're managing the gap between your style and theirs. That's the difference between a bad hire and a great team. But you can't manage that gap if you don't know where you stand on the map. There's also a sameness mistake. This is another reason why assessing the team matters. It's diversity of style. When leaders don't use data, they tend to hire people who remind them of themselves. It's human nature. We click with people who communicate like we do. If you're a fast-talking, big vision leader, you naturally gravitate towards candidates who are fast-talking and big vision. It feels like culture fit. But if you fill a room with people who are all big vision and no details, you're going to have a lot of great ideas and absolutely zero execution. Or if you fill a team with only stabilizers, those people who love routine and hate conflict, you will have a very peaceful office, but your business will stagnate because nobody's pushing for change. You need to know the profile of your existing team so you can hire for what is missing, not just what is comfortable. If your team is heavy on influence, talking, energy, people, maybe you specifically need to hire a conscientiousness profile, data systems accuracy, to balance them out. You wouldn't know that if you weren't assessing the team as a whole. Turning conflict into collaboration is what I'm talking about. The real magic of assessments, and I mean the part that actually makes you money, it happens after the hire. When an entire team understands each other's styles, workplace drama drops specifically. Think about the last conflict you had on your team. Was it really about the work, or was it about the way the work was being discussed? It's usually communication. When your team has a shared language, when they can say, hey, I know you need time to process this because you're a high S, so I'm going to send you over the info and we'll talk about it tomorrow. The tension disappears. It stops being personal. It stops being Bob is being difficult and starts being Bob needs detail to feel confident, and that's huge. We have seen teams go from constantly butting heads to working like a well-oiled machine just by running a workshop where everyone sees everyone else's profile. Suddenly, the manager understands why their direct report shuts down under pressure. The direct report understands why the manager sends those short and blunt emails. They stop fighting their differences and start leveraging them. This is about ROI, not just HR. I want to be clear about something. This isn't just HR fluff. Hiring is very expensive. Turnover is very expensive. A team that moves slowly because they're constantly misunderstanding each other is very expensive. When you use assessments effectively, meaning you assess the candidate, the leader, and the team, you're protecting your investment. You're ensuring that the new person you're bringing on actually has a runway to succeed. You're ensuring your managers know how to coach them, and you're ensuring your team knows how to collaborate with them. That's how you stretch a team's potential. You don't get high performance by accident, you get it by alignment. So, if you're currently using assessments just to screen people and then filing the report away in a drawer, stop it. Dust those reports off. Look at your own profile, look at your team's profile, and then map it out. Ask yourself, where are our gaps? Where are the friction points? Who are we hiring next and why? If you don't have the answers to these questions, you aren't hiring strategically yet. You're just filling seats. At BR1, we don't just hand you a test and wish you good luck. We believe assessments are a tool for building relationships, not just checking boxes. We work with leadership teams to map out their entire organization. We help you understand who you have, how they work, and who you need to find next to make the puzzle complete. If you're tired of hiring people who seem great on paper but flame out in your culture, or if you have a team that just can't seem to get on the same page, we need to talk. We can help you run the assessments, interpret the data, and most importantly, turn that data into better leadership decisions. Head on over to businessresources1.com or check out the link in the description to connect with us. Let's stop guessing and start building a team that actually fits together. Until next time, keep building your stronger team.